It is 11 o'clock, 1-800-239-WJOX. This is Three Man Front. Molly, Conrad, Landrum. I'm Pat with you until 2 o'clock. In about 30 minutes, we'll talk to Bill Clark, former UAB head coach, get his feelings over the weekend's musings, what took place in the college football playoff. Bama's loss in the SEC title game, but they are on to Norman, Oklahoma next Friday. Early weather forecast calls for snow. That's right, snow.
That's what I'm talking about.
In Norman, Oklahoma. Remember last year it was snowing the first college football playoff game between Indiana and Notre Dame. So Oklahoma and Bama.
EA Sports college football was way ahead of the curve. You're like, we don't ever get snow games. We rarely get snow games. Well, you do if you play playoff games, home campuses in December.
And see, Conrad, this will be a great opportunity for Alabama because they're going to be in their all whites, but to wear white headgear.
Yeah. You get lost in the snow.
Or wear black, and it'd be really easy to see them.
You don't want to do that. You want to be able to kind of hide. Camouflage yourself.
Maybe so.
Yep.
Then actually you could, run the ball. Maybe just kind of slip through the defenders.
Just wear high-vis, like Oregon yellow gloves.
That's right.
It'll be interesting to see how many people, as we get a little bit closer, will be making the trip to Norman. Because if you win there, then it's on to the Rose Bowl.
Do you just,
Well, I had somebody yesterday, they were asking, are you going to the game? I was like, no, I'm not going to the game. And they said, yeah, I think I'm going to hold out in case we make it to the national championship. I was like, I think you should just go to this game. I think you're going to be waiting a while if you're holding out for the national championship. I don't think Alabama's
or if you're that family
that
you've got your own business, maybe you're retired, you don't have to worry about money. You load up the travel bus.
I would think it'll probably be a Christmas gift for a lot of people is making that
go to Norman, then go maybe play some golf. I don't know.
In
Arizona. Go to Arizona, stop off there, and then make your way to Pasadena.
That's right. Maybe so.
It's just funny. This Notre Dame blowback it's just been funny. I mean, my mentions, I'm continuing to get stuff.
Are they going to send you? What kind of parade will they have? In Central Florida, when you went at them, they had a national championship parade banner. What is Notre Dame?
Well, needless to say,
what is Notre Dame going to celebrate?
I mean, this reminds me back, when Alabama embarrassed them in South Beach. The kind of vitriol they've had towards me. But it's not just me. I want to play a couple examples quickly before we get to your phone calls. This Notre Dame stuff is hilarious. Let's go Acho first. Emmanuel Acho, he did a quick podcast last night. This was his feelings on Notre Dame chickening out of a bowl game.
This is the most pathetic, cowardly thing I've ever seen from a program. Pathetic, cowardly, embarrassing. It's childlike. This is what children do. Notre Dame is doing what children do when they don't get their way. They sit in the corner and they pout, they take their ball and they go home. That's what children do. I could expect this from a true freshman. I could even expect this from an individual player. Hey, I can't play in the championship game. Well, I don't want to play at all. But Marcus Freeman, you and the decision makers, the regents, the president, the athletic director, y'all are better than this.
There you go. That was Acho. How about Matt Berry? One of my favorite guys on ESPN. He just does a tremendous job. By the way,
because he's an Arizona State guy.
That's right. He went to school there in Tempe, Arizona.
That's your adopted university.
Absolutely. This is what Matt Berry had to say yesterday on ESPN.
You were the University at Notre Dame. You were a brand in college football. You were one of the founding fathers of what makes this sport great. You should not have the right to do this as a team. And if you want to figure it out and you don't want to opt out of the bowl game as the University of Notre Dame, I can fix this whole thing with you with one phone call. Hi, can we join your conference? Oh, hey. You cannot be an independent, control your own schedule, and then pout when you don't get in because you don't have the conference championship at your weight.
I can only imagine because I've gotten like 600 replies off a tweet that I had yesterday. Now, I did have about 3,000 likes compared to about the 600 people that's come after me from Notre Dame. But Matt Berry just said something that a lot of people just forget. Like, they can make their own schedule.
Yeah, they get to yeah, they pick who they play. Look at their schedule for next year.
But it does. I'm not taking up for Notre Dame just from before we get text. You have to get people to agree to play you.
Yes, you can't force somebody to play. Yes.
But I can't tell you the last time that I heard that Notre Dame said, hey, we tried to play Team X, and they said no.
Yeah. It seems like there would be a waiting list to give your fans, if you're like we saw with Georgia, Alabama. I think we're going to get it with Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
That's that program.
Well, and my question with this whole situation would be, is Vanderbilt playing in a bowl game?
They are.
Did Alabama play in a bowl game last year?
They did.
What about Georgia a couple of years
ago? It'd be one thing if Marcus Freeman went to the team and said, guys, I know you're disappointed, but they're talking about us accepting a bowl invitation. And half the locker room said, just going to go ahead and tell you we're out.
All right, so look at their schedule. I mean, just look at their schedule every year. You're guaranteed you're going to play a couple of service academies. You're going to play Boston College. That is absolute trash. That's every year, okay? You're going to play them. You're going to play 3 bottom feeders from the ACC every year. Oh, and by the way, their big rivals, USC and Stanford. USC was decent this year, but Stanford. Do you know it's been 8 years since Stanford's had a winning record?
Yeah.
But you're playing them every year. Can you tell me?
But you talk about how historically how good that matchup has been. But
tell me,
it's been 8 years since they've had a winning program.
An SEC rival that has gone up against an opponent, and you can go non-conference probably because you can say, okay, let's look at Florida State, let's look at South Carolina, whatever the case may be. But you tell me the last time those games someone didn't pop up and beat someone in a rivalry game. When was the last time Stanford did that to Notre Dame? I mean, that's an automatic win every single year. And I think that's why people in the committee room, when they took them to the woodshed a couple weeks ago, they said, well, that didn't matter. It's like you beating Boston College.
Well, people brought up, well, Stanford was 4-8 and Auburn's 5-7. It's only a 1-game difference. I think Stanford's 4-8. If they were in the SEC, they'd be like 1-11.
Exactly.
They're terrible.
You forgot about you're going to get your one MAC game from Notre Dame every year.
True.
Which they lost last year.
Correct. To Northern Illinois.
Well, and then if you'll remember a couple of years ago, that had been back in 2022, they lost to Marshall.
Yeah.
Notre Dame did not play a playoff team since September 13th, and they have only played 3 teams in the FPI top 35 all year long. They had a 1-2 record against those teams.
And Alabama played 10?
Correct.
And went 7-3?
But when you can come up with your own schedule and you don't have to deal, I mean, what Alabama and Auburn's going to have to do moving forward, having 9 conference games. 9. We saw what has happened to this conference playing 8, especially this year, how competitive it was.
That's why it's only going to get tougher for Notre Dame, and we're going to have this conversation again until they join a new conference.
Give them an easy way out. I mean,
well, are we? Or, well, yeah, I guess we are with the agreement that's put in place.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those Notre Dame games made the top viewing games this year that I went over last week?
800-239-WJOX. Get to your phone calls. A lot of you waiting patiently. First, let's go to Parker. Hey, Parker, how are you?
Great. How are y'all this morning?
Doing well. Thank you, man.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, did Bama earn our playoff spot? I feel like we got given a spot in the playoffs. What do you guys think about that?
Where do you come
from? I feel
from?
like we didn't earn it.
Okay, well, you got to win over then a ranked Missouri team on the road.
Okay.
Which they're not ranked anymore.
Okay, I can't see that well, so I have to kind of go by kind of what I hear, you know,
Yeah.
and I guess what I'm saying is, like, for the SEC championship game, I feel like we got blown out. So I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just wanted to get you guys' opinion on it.
Parker, thank you for the phone call. We appreciate you chiming in.
I will say, I feel like a lot of the discussion around Alabama, and I get why they're doing it, but a lot of people are talking about they're looking at the last month and the Florida State game, and they're going, well, based on these 5 games, this isn't a playoff team. And they're very conveniently leaving out, like you mentioned, Missouri, Tennessee. You beat Vanderbilt by 2 scores.
Tennessee was the other one, sorry.
You beat Georgia on the road in Athens for the first time in like 6 years that anybody had done that. I understand where people are looking at, well, this part of the resume doesn't fit the narrative of a playoff team, but they're very conveniently leaving out the part of the narrative that makes Alabama a playoff team. They are a playoff team because of that 4-game stretch they had in the middle of the season. You can't take that away from them. You have to look at the entire season in its totality, not just, well, how's this team looked the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever.
Yeah, that was one thing that the NCAA basketball tournament decided to change a few years ago when they basically adopted the net rankings, which I think is tremendous because everyone knows where you stand, okay, before you head into this postseason conference tournament season. But in the old days, Landrum, what was the thing we always heard about? Okay, how have they played the last 10 games?
Yeah.
People would like throw out everything. Like you play like 32 games in college basketball, and people were saying, well, what did you do the last 10 games? What about the first 22 you played?
Yeah.
You know, you're looking for that hot team going into the NCAA basketball tournament. And for me, it is from week 1 through week 12 or 13 in a college football season. That's what you should be looking at, not if a team is trending in the right or wrong direction. You're either a good team for the majority of the season or you don't put them in. Don't look at the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season.
No. And if we're looking at the overall field, I wouldn't have had a problem with Notre Dame being in the field if they would have taken a spot like going back to the James Madison or potentially a Tulane. If we're talking about the best teams eye test in college football, I would have had no issue with Notre Dame being in there. I would have had no issue with Vanderbilt being in there, as a matter of fact, either. I think that would have been entertaining to have. But the system's in place where it is. I agree with you. It's the entire body of work. But then you have to find parallels and things that you can compare to and trying to explain for Hunter Yurachek. You think Mac Rhodes
He would have
probably would have been
No.
No?
I don't. I honestly, looking at that committee, there's a couple of people that I honestly have never seen them speak before. I think the messaging was going to be wrong. Doesn't matter who it was. I mean, Hunter Yurachek got the short straw.
It's a tough job that they have. It really is. Because at some point you're going to contradict an earlier statement or something that you said about a team, whether it be earlier in the conversation with Reese or last week or the week before.
Well, it's also interesting because you have Kirk Herbstreit, who over the weekend, more than one time, he chastised and criticized the fact on these Tuesday night shows. Well, guess what? Your employer that's paying you millions of dollars a year, they have a deal with the CFP, and in that deal, they are required to have 5 ranking shows. That's in the contract. So this is not like, okay, we shouldn't be having these shows. Well, your boss at ESPN, they're the ones that put it in the contract that they're required to do this. I don't think that's going away. I just think the messaging has been so bad at the people that's up there answering these questions. You need to do a better job finding someone to be that spokesperson.
Do you think that in Hunter Yurachek's situation, know that he's on shaky ground with the Arkansas folks, but this has not helped him professionally?
No, it hasn't. And
in fact, I would offer that it's probably been more of a detriment to him professionally moving forward.
Did you see what happened off mic during College Game Day? So he's on College Game Day, and he basically is doing a word salad. It was like listening to Joe Biden give a speech, and then all of a sudden, they go off, and Nick Saban slams him on an open mic, talking about how Hunter Yurachek didn't answer any blankety blank thing in that whole back and forth. And so yesterday during the show, the last thing that Hunter Yurachek said to Reese was, hey, tell Coach I answered all your questions today. Taking a shot at Nick Saban because Saban had criticized him the day before. Because
I do appreciate Hunter Yurachek saying that. Like, hey, by the way, Coach, I did hear everything you said.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of hard not to. I mean, it pretty much went viral. And so, but that show's not going away. I mean, you have to do a better job of transparency. And I bring up the college basketball because if you've got a computer right now, you can go look at KenPom, you can go look at net rankings, and you can get a pretty good idea of where your team stands.
Yeah.
Okay? Granted, it's not going to be the tell-all of this team is going to be for sure in the college basketball tournament, but it really gives you a really good idea. Meanwhile, we're still looking at this Tuesday night where it's going back and forth, and we have no idea, like the precedents that they're trying to set or what they care more about. The transparency that we complained about last year still is not there.
It's still in its infancy. But maybe they make a call to Martin Newton. Like, hey, we know you're a basketball guy, but could you come and be our spokesperson on Tuesday nights?
Well,
Because you're right. And maybe it's because it's more teams. Maybe it's because we've had it longer and that we do have the net ranking system that adds additional data. I don't know. Maybe it will gradually come along. We're going to get an expansion.
Well, not to mention
there's
the
no way
fact
we're staying at 12.
that it also hurts the whole process when ESPN puts out these stats every week. Alabama has a 97% chance of making the college football playoff with a win. Then all of a sudden everybody's saying, well, the cake's already baked. So it doesn't matter what happens. Alabama's in.
But then with a loss, it drops down to 38%.
Like, listen, we had Brad Edwards on this show for years, who was one of the bigwigs at ESPN Stats and Information, which is now, I think that's called ESPN Analytics. And we tried every year to get him to explain to us what FPI meant.
Well, this is why you need, in my opinion, a combination of data, analytics, hard numbers that are comprised by whatever ranking system or formula that you have, but also the human element, where we don't have what we had a few years ago, where it's a computer making a decision for a Florida State team that lost their most valuable player who looks a lot different without him. That's when you need the human element to come in. I don't want it all based on computers, but it seems like maybe we could use more of that to eliminate some of this, at least in the preliminary weeks.
It just feels like moving forward, I think a lot of people are going to have the stance of maybe I'll tune in on Tuesday nights, maybe I won't, but what's the point of even watching until Selection Sunday? Because they have now shown not only this year, but in years past that that's when they like to make their big changes, is the final week. They have the entire resumes of every team in front of them, and they just kind of do what they want. So I think you're going to have a lot of people that go, what's the point of waiting or tuning in before Selection Sunday?
I think they would help themselves if they played it out a little bit and went, hey, but wait a minute. What if potentially we get this at the end of the season? And maybe they're charged not to look at it that way. But they did themselves no favor in what they had, where they had Notre Dame ranked as opposed to Miami.
And Notre Dame's AD yesterday, he basically said because of these rankings that basically you gave false hope to the Irish administrators, fans, Coach Marcus Freeman, staff, and most notably the players.
I agree.
By misrepresenting the rankings every Tuesday night and then throwing that bombshell yesterday.
I agree with that. I'm not defending Notre Dame, but if that happened to my team, I would feel the same way. But it still doesn't escape the fact that they need to play in a real conference like everybody else. I mean, goodness gracious, we have the service academies. They finally got on board.
And again, if I'm Notre Dame, how do you not look around at the ACC championship game and go, A, we should be playing in that game, and B, let's join that conference and win it every single year, and this isn't going to be a problem. You just had an 8-5 Duke team win the ACC. If you don't want to compete in that, that's embarrassing.
We'll get to more of your phone calls. A lot of you on hold. You guys hang on. We'll get to them. Promise. This is Reaction Monday. A lot of reaction. Notre Dame being left out. Alabama gets to play Venimals in Oklahoma and maybe snowy Norman next Friday. All of that and more. Three-Man Front continues on Jocks.
11:23 here on Jocks. We'll talk to Bill Clark coming up at the bottom of the hour, 1-800-239-WJOX.
Get your phone calls. A lot of you patiently waiting. Let's go to Beham Dog. Beham Dog, congratulations on the win and your second straight title.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I did all I could do to pull them through.
What was it? Was he in? Were you there in attendance?
I was not.
Okay.
Was not.
Pat and Conrad just talking about the buzz around the game, and it lacked as opposed to other SEC championship games and matchups we've seen in the past. Did you hear that from your Georgia contingency?
I did. Immediately, I had a couple friends, couple relatives that went, and they said that immediately. They did say that the crowd got a little more into it when Georgia started feeling more comfortable that they were going to win the game. That the Georgia crowd got a little more into it. But, yeah, I did hear something very similar, that the buzz just wasn't there. But, yeah, I appreciate that. It was a big win. I'm stoked. I think Georgia has progressed so much over the course of the year, and I know I'm biased, but I feel like they're going to be a team to reckon with. But that's not really what I would call to talk about. There's so much stuff to talk about and so little phone time. I do believe Notre Dame deserves to be in the playoffs. I think it's also crappy what they've done by opting out. And I don't know if the NCAA won't do this because they don't have kahunas big enough, but if you opt out of a bowl game, you automatically we have the right to exclude you from the CFP next year if you're good enough to make it. You remove yourself from that if you opt out of a bowl game. Secondly, I do believe Notre Dame deserves it, as well as Bama, as well as Miami. Where the committee has lost credibility, they had Notre Dame ranked above Miami pretty much the whole time, and then based it off the fact they're head-to-head. Well, their head-to-head was week 1. You've had all this time to decide if they were better than Notre Dame based off the head-to-head, but you switch it the last week of the final decision, just like they did Alabama week 12 when they put Alabama below Notre Dame. You start losing credibility when you can't justify it without some type of, like Pat said, a word salad explanation that only idiots are going to agree with. If you have any knowledge of the game, you look at that and it's like, okay, what did you just say? And why? So we can't make the playoff because we have a terrible rushing attack? But you can rush for -3 yards and that'll be okay. I'm not just trying to throw shade at Alabama.
No, you're right.
No, you're right.
You're absolutely right.
The metrics continue to move, and the reasons why is so asinine.
Well, I can even remember. You remember a couple of years ago with Oregon and how high they had Oregon ranked, but at least the committee recognized, we're looking 3 weeks down the road. We potentially have a problem. Let's start moving Oregon back in some of these rankings where we can justify it if this happens as opposed
100%.
to this. All right, we lost Beham Dog. Beham Dog, be careful out there driving. We appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to what he said a few moments ago, and we were talking about how there was no buzz before the game, that doesn't mean that the two combatants weren't out there trying to win the game. I was not referring to that. I'm just talking about
fan perspective.
Yeah, the fan perspective and the buzz from outside, talking to people, the tailgating, and then getting into the press box and just the game itself. It definitely lacked the enthusiasm that we've seen in the past, and it was not, and I repeat, it was not close to a sellout.
Let's go to Jay in Birmingham. Hey, Jay. Jay? All right, we're going to put Jay on hold. Let's go to Gordy in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Gordy.
Hey, guys. Hey, I have two questions. The first question is, does it seem to you guys like Alabama was kind of playing with house money a little bit after the Florida State game? Seems like they've really regressed on offense. And then my next question is, has there been any talk from bowl sponsors about maybe like a collective with the players to keep them from failing on bowl games? You know, maybe give them a little bit of money. In basketball, they do the Players Era tournament, and they basically make NIL money. And, you know, the more games you win, the more money you make. Has that ever been something that you guys have ever heard about, or would they consider it? Would it even work?
We've proposed it, Gordy, here on the show. Why not have one? You did have a bowl game, I thought, that because I wanted to call it the NIL Bowl, where you had escalators and you could incentivize certain players for hitting whatever, yardage, catches, touchdowns, MVP plateaus. I think it would be great. The problem is the schedule. And some of these guys, they've already made their decision where they're going to go. A lot of them already have a deal in place, even if the portal hasn't opened, and they know where they're going to go. And I don't know if an extra – and how do you scatter that about? An extra $100,000 is going to entice the guy to stick around as opposed to going and getting his new deal. But it's a good question. And if it would help with bowl participation, I'm all for it. I'm sure the bowls would be.
The University of Tennessee has just fired its defensive coordinator, Tim Banks. He is out. The Vols finished 14th in the SEC in total defense in 2025. They almost gave up 400 yards per game. So Banks out as defensive coordinator at Tennessee.
I got an idea. There's a guy who's been at Tennessee, knows it well, and he could coordinate a defense. Kevin Steele. He's there.
He's been there before.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Make the call.
Speaking of great defenses, Bill Clark was a defensive guru when he was a coach on the sideline. He will join us next on Three Man Front. As we roll on this Reaction Monday here on Jock's three-man front, Pat Landrum, Molly, and Conrad. A little bit of news in the SEC this morning. Tim Banks, a 5-year defensive coordinator at the University of Tennessee. He has been fired this morning. Tennessee had the 88th best defense in America. Just FYI, there were 136 teams playing football this year. They were 14th in the SEC in total defense, giving up close to 400 yards per game. So Josh Heupel makes a change on the defensive side of the ball.
Our next guest, it's Coach Bill Clark, the pride of Piedmont. We're going to talk about Alabama, what happened this weekend, the college football playoff, and more. Coach Clark is always brought to us by our friends at Donahue Chevrolet.
Coach Bill Clark on Three Man Front is brought to you by Donahue Chevrolet. Learn more at DonahueChevrolet.com. And now, Coach Bill Clark.
And Coach joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Coach, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Your reaction first to everything that's transpired with Notre Dame and what you saw with them getting left out to deciding that they are going to pack up the gear for the year.
Yeah, wow, bunch of things there. Obviously, I thought they were a good enough team to be in it. I understand about formulas and the things that led to it. Obviously, you would feel they were one of the top 12 teams. So I hate that, but also, this deal about the bowl games is terrible for our sport. I can't stand it. I hate to see people opting out. Obviously, we've created a lot of insanity with the way the rules and lack thereof are, and I think something's got to be addressed, or we're going to end up killing the bowl system. So it's a bad look.
I went on a diatribe earlier, Coach, and I understand you might have a different feeling here, and if we disagree, that's fine. I mean, it's what America's all about. But I wanted to get your take on what I said. I firmly believe that it is time, more so now than ever, that the group of five, they need to have their own championship, that the Power Four needs to do their thing, and the group of five needs to do their thing, because nobody in the right mind believes James Madison and Tulane can make any kind of noise whatsoever in the college football playoff or potentially win a national championship under this current system. Do you agree with that, or do you think that with their access, that should be guaranteed every year?
Well, two things. One, I think you're 100% right that they can't really compete. We know that. I do think that if it stays where it's at, you got to do something to give them an opportunity, which is why we were happy to at least have an opportunity. If you're going to ask us to compete now, would I rather see a championship for those guys some other way? Yeah, because it's just the financial difference between those guys and the powers to be, the Power Four. It's night and day. And I think just in fairness to them, and also just the big picture of what the playoffs should look like, it should be separated out.
Coach, where are you on conference championship games? There was a lot of scuttlebutt before the Alabama-Georgia game. Is it necessary? Does Alabama get dinged? The precedent would be bad if the committee had penalized Alabama and left him out because of a loss to a team that they beat earlier in the season. But it does seem like that it's kind of coming to a head, maybe sooner rather than later with the conference championships. Do you like the idea of maybe earning the right not to have to play in a conference championship game? We expand the field, have play-in games. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if we're going to play, so it's kind of that same thing we're saying here. It's if you're going to say there's championship games, and if you don't want them to not have any weight, because people are going to not want to play in them, there's got to be a weight toward playing in a championship game. Just like I said on this show, I said on my show, Alabama should not be punished for playing in a championship game. I mean, that's insanity. All that should end right before the championship game, because who would want to play in a championship game? You're hurting yourself with that. So I think either, I think you need to recognize the champion and the teams that are playing in it, as long as the record's what it should be, like Alabama. And there's some other things to look at, but I don't think you punish a team for playing in a championship game. And I think that was the right call to put them in.
So watching Alabama's anemic performance on offense over the weekend, does that give you concern moving forward, playing a Brent Venables defense coming up again in less than 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could sit there and say they've got a running back out, a tight end out, blah, blah, blah. But They have, and it happens. It happens. You're peaking based on injuries and getting people well. You're going down based on injuries, and people start filling you out or whatever that is. They're trending down. Now, can they get some guys back and be better? They get into the whole, hey, will you beat us once now? We've got something to play. I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors. We said that earlier. I don't think Venables was the only one that started figuring them out. He had an extra week, and he really is a great defensive coach. I think South Carolina showed some weakness. Obviously they'd had all the tough games in a row, but they got to get some guys well. They've got to get things going again, and that's not really somebody you want to go against to try and break out of your offensive doldrums.
Brent Venables very well in his defense and kind of the mindset. Paraphrasing what he said, he was asked about the rematch, and he said it is kind of what it is. There's not going to be a whole lot of surprises. It's all about execution. For a team like Oklahoma, does that lend to their advantage, or do you see potentially Alabama just being able to come out and maybe change some of the things that they're doing?
I think two things. I think Oklahoma, just gained a week. I mean, let's just be honest about it. They gained a week of, hey, we get into play. We didn't get beat up. We got a week less of, what they did, they rehabbed all week. And they also worked on Alabama again. Now, granted, that had to be confirmed. So they started working on them maybe, and then, maybe they held to after the game. But they definitely got physically better, which is a huge advantage for them. Moving into this game. So I think Alabama's got to really look at themselves hard. And I mean, that's not something that's probably not rocket science to say. We got to look at ourselves, and we got to get back to doing what we were doing before.
Coach, last Wednesday was National Signing Day, and you are still very well connected to a lot of coaches at both the Power 4 and the Group of 5 level. If you would, just tell the audience how much it has changed in regards how the philosophy is of these coaches now trying to go out on high school signing day, which we just witnessed last week, and the transfer portal. How are they balancing that? Or most coaches not going the high school route, but just waiting around to try to get the veterans out of the transfer portal?
Well, I think you got guys with a lot of money are looking almost solely at the transfer portal with obviously they're going – the high-end high school elite players that can play immediately, they're still going to look at them. But I mean, I've got friends that were, the last week of the season had 30 recruits in. Now, I love the fact that we've got, one portal coming up. I mean, thank God for the coaches. The fact you'd get a roster and there was a portal, and then we were going to have another one after spring. So I know we're not really talking about that, but that is a great move towards some sanity at least. The signing day, the way it was made, was so short. I don't understand it. Why it was moved up, because it created guys having to have these official visits with games going on. And we've always done a little bit of that, but this was just, it's crazy. So I don't know. We put that with some of our other things, and we got a lot of things that can be fixed.
Coach, when you look at the overall field, and we'll get some of these head-to-heads, but right now, eye test, does it tell you that Indiana's the best team in the country?
There's always the question of their year, but I mean, who doesn't want to live in that world where you're really good, you're not beat up because you've got a lesser conference? I was super impressed with them Saturday, and I've got to watch them throughout the year. I think we all know Ohio State's got a really good team, and they were just really top to bottom. Their discipline, they understand numbers, they understand down and distances, they do the little things. They were, very impressive. Now, granted, who have they played throughout the year? But when you get to this time of year, who's the healthiest, who's playing the best? But I was very impressed with them.
Last week, UAB made it official as Alex Mortensen is the new head coach of the UAB Blazers. I know on your show late last week, you talked about how impressed you were, how he was able to lead UAB through some obviously difficult times towards the end of the season. Just your thoughts on Mortensen now as the head coach of the Blazers.
Well, if we're only talking about coach, we're not talking about a lot of the surrounding stuff that I'm not real happy with. But, as far as he goes, I think he's a really good young coach. I mean, he's got, when you start putting a whole body of work in front of him, he's got work to do. But what I've seen out of him is very bright. Obviously, Coach Henley, the strength coach, is still there, who I know very well, one of my guys, and wish him nothing but the best.
Coach Bill Clark, you can hear his show right here on Jocks Thursdays at 6 o'clock. This week, no exception. We'll have plenty to talk about, some of what we talked about here and other things as the week progresses. Coach, we always appreciate it, and you're always brought to us by our friends at Donahue Chevrolet. They got ridiculous deals always, but right now they got the heavy-duty trucks you can go with, or you can find a great selection of other cars, trucks, and SUVs.
Yeah, appreciate our friends at Donahue, and yeah, I think maybe are y'all trying to be less ridiculous today?
Less ridiculous.
Is that the
yes.
goal?
Notre Dame's being ridiculous.
Yeah, we're just being
us.
more serious today.
Yes.
I heard some Notre Dame fans thought y'all were ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that goes
we'll talk
without
about
saying.
that on my show.
Yeah, a
That's
bunch
right.
of leprechauns.
That's right. Coach, we
All
always
right, man.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Coach Bill Clark, presented by Donahue Chevrolet. DonahueChevrolet.com. As you're getting your Christmas shopping done, maybe you can drop by our friends at Donahue. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham's your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Coming up at 1 o'clock today, Alex Golish. He'll be meeting with the media. We'll carry those comments live on this Reaction Monday. More of your calls and texts straight ahead. We roll on this Reaction Monday. Appreciate Bill Clark joining us, giving his thoughts on the weekend. Alabama, they lose the SEC championship game, but the Tide, they are now going to Norman, Oklahoma, a week from Friday. Bama, a slight favorite, according to Vegas. It was interesting because the line opened up. Oklahoma was about a 1.5, 2-point favorite. It quickly moved to even money, and now Bama is a slight favorite. And the weather forecast, Conrad, for next Friday?
Well, that's what I was going to say. So Jim Nagy, who we know is now the GM for Oklahoma, he had posted on social media this morning a picture of Oklahoma Stadium covered in snow, and he had said something along the lines of, could have a snowy playoff game in Norman next Friday, but we have had multiple listeners who have gone and looked at the forecast. As of right now, it is supposed to be in the mid-50s and sunny, so it is not expected there will actually be snow.
Oh, shucks.
But I guess Mother Nature, you never know. But as of right now,
so the snow forecast
snow.
in Norman changed as quickly as it does here in Birmingham.
Yes.
I didn't want to burst your bubble. I'm still holding out for snow. I like snow just in general.
It'd be cool, but as of right now, no snow on the forecast.
Put it on top of a football game involving 2 SEC teams.
That'd be huge.
All in.
So we've only got a couple days left, but Abide Roofing is giving one deserving homeowner a brand new roof completely free. I've been telling you, it's not a gimmick. This is not a sales pitch. It's Abide Roofing's way of saying thank you to the community that has allowed Abide Roofing to serve them. So here's how it works. You fill out a form at abideroof.com. Look for a green bar at the top of the homepage. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate someone in your neighborhood. You can first responder, a veteran. It doesn't matter. Go to the website, abideroof.com. The value is up to a 30-square roof, or roughly $13,000. Maybe it's someone that's fallen on hard times during this holiday season. So you can enter through December 12th. December 19th will be the announcement of who won the free roof. So go to abideroof.com. It's the free roofing giveaway. Just simply go to their website, abideroof.com, for more information.
We'll continue with your phone calls. Michael has been waiting patiently. Let's go to Michael. He is not there anymore. An issue with the phone lines. Let's get to your text. We haven't gotten to any text so far today. 205-834-9450 on the text line. Golly, there's a lot of them. Let's go to... There are some really, really angry folks this morning. Pat, you're doing all that you can to stir up the Notre Dame people.
Really didn't have
you
to do
and
much.
Paul. Go Feinbaum, go.
Oh, Paul must have ripped them this morning. Good.
Can you guys explain the Notre Dame contract thing that lets them in if they're top 12 no matter what? I caught the back end of Pat saying that, and I'm a little confused.
Yeah, so basically all the conferences and Notre Dame had to sign a memo of understanding with ESPN and the college football playoff. And under the current memo of understanding, starting in 2026, if Notre Dame finds itself in the top 12, they make the college football playoff. Period. It's just like no different than before in the previous system. I believe it was the BCS that they could be considered for a BCS bowl game if they were a top 6 team. So they've always had this extra because they're Notre Dame.
So if I'm not mistaken, let's say that last year's scenario or yesterday's scenario happened next year. Even though Miami got moved ahead of them in the rankings, Notre Dame would have gotten that last spot in the playoff and Miami would have been out.
Correct.
Oh, man. Could you imagine the reaction today if that was the case?
Bama fan here. Dang, you can't please our fans. Mad if you don't make it. Mad if you make it. Geez, do better, Bama Nation. Are you happy, Conrad?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just want a chance.
See if
now,
you
am
agree
I
with
confident
this.
in their chance? But I'm glad they have a chance.
Do you agree with this? Hey, guys, face the music. Alabama's very soft up front. Unfortunately, no quarterback could operate with the pressure Georgia was bringing. Plus, the all-around talent level between Georgia and Alabama doesn't compare.
I would agree with the first part, not so much with the second part. I think, again, I understand it was a long time ago. These same teams played 2 months ago and Alabama won. Like, I understand it looked really bad on Saturday. But
Eye test told me that Georgia, well, maybe it looked that way because Georgia seemed like they were playing at a different gear
I agree with that.
for 4 quarters. Not saying Alabama was taking it off, but Georgia was keyed up.
Kirby had them ready to go.
Yes, he did. Embrace the future and let AI pick the college football playoff.
Well, it was funny because a lot of people yesterday, well, let's go back to the BCS. Alabama still would have been in. Sorry.
That would have been a 10 as opposed to the 9 that the committee gave them.
Yep, sorry, everybody.
Bama played 4 games against teams that are currently ranked in the top 25. They went 1-3 in those games. Also in 2023, UGA lost the SEC championship, went from 1-6 and missed the playoffs. You can't sit here and tell me there isn't a Bama bias.